So I am Natalia Bobadilla. I am a PhD in management science. So I'm completely in a different field than Sophie. I'm organization theory and work, and I work as an assistant professor at the University of Rouen-Normandie, and I am a member of the dynamiques laboratory. So my research mainly focuses on organizational mutations and their effects on individuals, teams, and urban areas. And I try to combine longitudinal and R-based methods to explore the spatial, aesthetic, and temporal dimensions of change in organizations. So today, in this conversation with Lorenzo Vitturi, my idea is to exchange and to question what markets actually are, physically, aesthetically, and conceptually. But especially, I will focus on two of Lorenzo's projects. So Dalston Anatomy and Money Must Be Made. So these two projects differ in terms of the timing of the conception and publication, but they also differ in the field immersion by the artist. So I also have the time to discuss briefly with Lorenzo, who explained to me some of his motivations, but I have taken the input from the discussion to prepare this presentation plus my knowledge. So as I said, I'm interested in these two main projects, Dalston Anatomy and Money Must Be Made. They were made at different points of time. And of course, they relate to two different places. So on one hand, we have the Ridley Road Market in East London in the UK in 2013. And on the other hand, we have the project Money Must Be Made, who was inspired by the Balogun Market in Lagos, Nigeria. So when I analyzed these two artistic projects, 5 concepts came to my mind. So market spaces, place appropriation, aesthetics and materiality, sorry, gentrification. And from my point of view, I see a lot of tensions in this artistic work. But before moving forward, I would like to just come back to recall some notions about markets. So markets, what are markets? So historically, markets have been defined by the movement of people and commodities from and between various places of production, distribution, and consumption. But they are also important nodes of passage of the, they will help the development of new modes of social ordering. So coming from the bottom up. And marketplaces, marketplace is a particular type of commercial place in which, because we have a face-to-face trade, a feature of the daily marketplace. There is information asymmetry since we don't know the price. The buyer and the seller do not have the same information. There is a lack of formal market devices, and bargaining exists as a model of price setting. And all of these features fit into the anthropological definition of bazaar level commerce. But what is interesting is that in organization studies and in the social studies, most of the work has been focused on consumer culture and the aesthetics of more capitalistic commodities and commercial spaces such as shopping malls and global media culture. And a few works have looked at popular commodity aesthetics or market spaces. So these more marginal spaces have had less present in the scientific work. So when we, in organization studies, when we talk about space, when we call it for a theoretical approach, the work of Henri Lefebvre and to a lesser extent the work of Doreen Massey constitute the most important references. But especially the work of Henri Lefebvre, who explains that space is a social production, and to understand it's social and politically produced. And he explains space through 3 main dimensions. So the conceived space, the perceived space, and the lived space. So the trilogy of Lefebvre must be understood as the 3 dimensions should be understood in one. But so the conceived space refers to the space made by architects and town planners. So it's a pure mathematical figures and messages. The perceived space refers to how users of space move and practice space. And the lived space, it's the space which is more metaphorical, is the space of subjectivity, human experience and imagination. So the interesting thing about the trilogy of Lefebvre is that these three conceptions of space in reality will create conflict and tensions and politics. So because the conceived space, for instance, if we look at the market, let's say a market is occupied in a certain place, but it's this conceived space will provoke resistance by groups who defend and seek to reconstruct a lived space. For instance, when we close the market space, well, so the users of the sellers will be fighting to recover this lived space. Okay, so well, the three dimensions of Lefebvre are key to understand space and the tensions and conflict that could exist in the different perceptions of space. Another interesting theory about spaces and places is Ramsey, who completes and builds on Henri Lefebvre, but she brings a more, let's say, a different vision of space, in the sense that she focused on the place of relationships to build space. And for her, it's the fortuitous and the random juxtaposition of trajectories that meet in time and in space that will build a place. So, but for her, also, place is a moment of power, and places are unique by the heterogeneity, which means also because spaces are built of different trajectories and are heterogeneous, they will also have tensions and build and be source of creativity, but at the same time, they can have issues. So in organizational studies, we differentiate the type of spaces in order to what they produce. And when I looked at the work of Lorenzo, for me, two major themes in the spatial literature came to my mind. So there is the notion of free space by Poletta, which is a more political vision of space. And we call these spaces free spaces because they are beyond the direct control of dominant groups, and individuals participate in these spaces on a voluntary basis. So we can, to give you an example about free spaces, we can think of the 19th century religious festivals in which people had the arena to exchange ideas and information. Or we can think about public rituals or organizations such as the African American churches that fueled the civil rights movements and serve as a tool to promote collective action. So the importance of free spaces can be explained in particular by looking at the concept of Foucault, in which for Foucault, for instance, there is no separation between space and power. What is particular about the concept of free spaces is that we can think about free spaces in a virtual way or in a physical way, in a symbolic manner. But I think, for me, for markets, as shown in the artistic work of Lorenzo, can be considered as free spaces if they provide an emancipatory potential. That's the condition, let's say. Another concept that I can connect with Lorenzo's work is the idea of the third place, which was, so third places are places that are in between. So the idea of these places is that they're blur boundary. So the concept was developed by Oldenburg, but he used this term to designate spaces that were not home or work. And for instance, in markets, we see people come to work, but there is a strong sense of belonging and community and friendship. And because these intersecting space, they use different norms, they are potentially a source of both uncertainty of creativity. So when I look at Lorenzo's work, I think that was dependent on the place, because he explores different marketplaces, we could see that they could be free, considered as free spaces or as a third places. But I mean, what I see is that there is a recursive unfolding of the spatial and the social. So as humans transform the places or the markets they occupy, those places come to transform them. And this is where comes like the heart of Lorenzo's work, what we see in Lorenzo's work. So it's the making of the place, the appropriation strategies. So as I said, the place is made of the space is made of different dimensions, and it will build through tensions. And boundaries, for instance, in this picture, we see that boundaries and movements are key. And actually, the street market vendors will build upon spatial routines, a sense of place, and they will build political alliances, and they will defend their place by using different strategies, because there will be people who own their locale and some others don't, so they are walking around selling their products. And we see micropolitics over allocation of a space. We can see it at a bigger level when, like they said, the space planners of the government will give access or not to a certain space. And micropolitics will also regulate the interactions between vendors and government and among them. And of course, here we are at the heart of the informal organization. So we see the practices of networking, which are used that are outside the control of like the official regime. So as part of what I see in Lorenzo's work, there is a lot of materiality. The materiality, it's very present in his work. And the use of, because objects at the market space help, and objects in general, help to shape identity, and they're the more of subjectivity. And I think that objects as living, objects serve as equipments for living, because they're the passage point for humans, the humans use in order to pursue their projects. This is the idea of Bruno Latour and his work about materiality, for instance. So here in this picture, it really struck me in the Morning Bus We Made and the other project, Dalton Anatomy, seeing as the body is used as a shop. It's very aesthetic, but at the same time, you see, but people need to create appropriation and kind of mechanism to be able to sell their products. I also, by looking at his work, I see the appropriation of space make it possible to create different atmospheres and a kind of a territory of freedom, some wild or sensual aesthetic, but in terms of techniques, we see the use of appropriation methods as assemblings or ephemeral, ready-made DIY practices are very present, which reveal, if we connect DIY and organization, it reveals a self-management approach. So through these pictures, I also think about ephemeral architecture, or that we can juxtapose with the idea of learning to live in capitalistic ruins. So the art of surviving in a messy architecture. I also think, and that we discussed with Lorenzo, on the creativity that is actually very present in marketplaces, because you see the way the products are displayed, it's very aesthetic, and actually vendors will use different techniques to present their products or services. A component of these street market aesthetics is the excess. So the excess of abandoned goods and abundance. So because nothing goes to waste, sorry. And what I see also in the work of Lorenzo, it's there is a form of putting, giving some life to ordinary objects. Well, also to come back to the idea of the third places, but actually in markets we're selling things, but traders' hands and mouths move in tandem. And in the matter of a minute, when you go to a market space like in Africa or in Delhi, conversations will start about traders' stories, about the products, where they come from. They will tell you to what extent this product is superior from others in the market and from its older versions. So actually, what I see in his work is also this idea of storytelling of objects. To continue, well, there is the issue of gentrification, because as we see in these two pictures, so the one it's on the left relates to the Balogun market in Lagos, and the other one it's in the UK, in London. But actually, we see that vending practices build praise reputations for markets. And Lorenzo's work highlights the nuance of street market aesthetics. But my question for him is, what's the role of street markets in gentrification? And to finalize, what I see, it's in Lorenzo's work, it's and through market, it's a lot of tensions, because we could think that markets are just simple systems, but when we look deeper, there are different layers of complexity. We could also ask the questions: are they really free spaces, autonomous geographies, or these markets are part of geopolitics at small scale? Are these market space of resistance, or as we see, for instance, in the pictures of the work in Lagos, that this market is key because it's a key point of entrance for the Chinese product? So are we talking about space of resistance, or are we in a tension also with a global domination from China, especially? And to finalize, there is the tension between creativity and precarity. Because of course, these people are very creative in the way to create businesses, to show the products. And there are many sources of creativity, but there is also precarity. So markets particularly in these aesthetic dimensions, for me, evidence of the struggles and ingenuity of ordinary lives at the margins of the global capitalism. So thank you. Perhaps I would like, Lorenzo, if you could react to my presentation, and then we can discuss and participate with the audience.
Yeah. No, thank you, Sophie. It was incredible. I love to know. It was a great presentation. You know, really managed to underline and discover, I mean, and to read all these different layers that but I really found that you found looking at my work. So it was really interesting, your approach from your point of view, which is, yeah, exactly. It's interesting because I always try to, my work to create in each artwork or image, like different layers, you know, from like the more aesthetical to some, you know, more hidden layers that are connected to, you know, more like anthropological or in this case, ethnographical issues. So it was, yeah, it was a fantastic presentation. And but where to start? I don't know. You know, because we've spoken already, and you know, it's, I think.
Well, I have a question for you, because it's the end of my presentation. So, what are the tensions you want to show in your work about markets? Is that an intention, or what's the tension you want to show? What are the tensions?
But it depends, because there are two different works. In the first one, Dust Anatomy was, of course, there was a tension, and the tension was exactly the tension maybe face by the community in this case, that was facing quite, this kind of potential displacement at the beginning, like a community was, in a way forced to move, not physically forced, but economically forced to move from a neighborhood that was, their original neighborhood that completely was transformed economically and socially in no more than 20 years. And of course they had to find, new strategies to either to stay or just to move to another place. And this is one of the effects of gentrification that, we already spoken. So of course the tension you could feel is exactly how, in this case, a neighborhood is changing, and the tension is, is you can, that, what I experienced in talking with the people at the market doing the interviews was exactly this, the tension felt by the community that was, in a way had to leave their neighborhood, their houses, and find a new location. Of course, that's why, the idea of the sculptures was exactly this one, to, representing an image in a visual, in a still life, in a female sculpture, this kind of, one side, of course, there was a beauty of which that to me, of course, was important, because it was also a celebration of something which was still existing on the street, this kind of vibrance, this kind of, as I call the beauty of an island of resistance, where really people are trying to creating alternative systems to the big distribution to survive and to organize their life, different, creative strategies to organize this island of resistance. And on the other side, there was this kind of tension, and this kind of precariousness that, you could feel in the neighborhood, in the community. So I think that the tension was, this kind of second element that I tried to express and to communicate through especially through the sculptural work.
Okay.
And instead, sorry, because this was about those anatomy, regarding money must be made, I think that the tension was different, because here there was a tension between two different realities. The reality of this case, of the financial trust house and the story of this owner, and the reality of this, of this building, in a way, was representing this kind of economic boom of the 90s, in the tension between exactly this reality and the market reality, which was exactly in a phase of explosion of development. And of course here there was actually a real tension that I tried to visualize especially in the making of the book, and how completely to confront these different, completely different realities, but really close to each other. So exactly in the here photography and the editing of the book was used exactly to make this tension visible and in a book, and how completely these different worlds that usually, in the rest of the world, and especially in Europe, you have are completely the opposite. That's why I called sort of, what I found in the street of Lagos, in the Balogun market, a sort of gentrification in reverse, because there was what is usually a victim of gentrification, like a local market. Here is actually the powerful part, but just because it's, because of its, because of different political reasons that are happening specifically in that part of Lagos, but also for this kind of incredible scale of the market, which is growing and growing.
Maybe Lorenzo, you can just tell a word for the people who don't know so well the series about, because you just mentioned the Financial Trust House. What's the dynamic between that building? What's particular of the history of that building, and how the market built itself against that tower, and the symbolics of these two spaces? No?
Yeah, of course. No, sorry, because it's But this story is quite incredible. And it's something of which is I always like to mention is a story that is, you know, is a really particular and peculiar story. It's happening in the center of Victoria Island, which is one of the oldest part of Lagos, the capital of Nigeria. And in the center of this neighborhood, there is this financial trust house, which is, you know, is a brutalist architecture that, you know, it was a sort of a symbol of the economic boom of the 90s in Lagos, Nigeria, and it was, you know, it was a sort of a base for all it was hosting all the offices of, especially mostly Western corporations and banks, you know, from, you know, so KLM to Bank of America to so really it's kind of quite, you know, this well-known Western corporations. And in the last 20 years, for different reasons, mainly political, the local market that was actually, you know, limited to a little road on the side of the building started to grow without any control and started to completely take over the space, actually physically the space around the building, until when, now in 2020, the building has lost completely his value, economical value, and of course all the different businesses moved to another area of the city. So that's the story, and that's what I found in this part of Lagos. While, you know, as I said, is a really specific case, because then as soon as you move in the other neighborhood, you know, the development of the capital is really similar to the other, you know, European or American capital. So this is something that's why I really focus on this quite, I mean, it's a huge market, because now it is the second biggest market of Africa. And it sells mostly product women who come from mostly Chinese products. So it's, as also Natalia was saying, this is really is the story of a big market, but that really hides in his system, in his organization, these balances of a wider geopolitical frame. So that's why I decided to really to make this work.
Mm-hmm. Lorenzo, I think there are some colleagues from the laboratory, and I think it would be interesting that you could see if you could tell us more about. Well, you talk about capturing the aesthetics of the market. Tell us more about how you work. I mean, because for me, the artistic processes and scientific processes are quite similar. And how do you come from going to the field, as they call it, and producing your artwork? What are the stages that you go through?
Yeah, I mean, usually I organize my process could say 2-3 phases. The first one is, you know, exactly as you said. I mean, I go into the field. I mean, in the case of the market, I really is a period of discovering a new reality, a new space, and trying also to create a connection with, in this case, a local community. So in this case of the market, in Dorset, for example, it took some time because there was also a sort of a resistance towards photographers and video makers, because, you know, the same video maker and journalist use the market, especially when I started in 2013, as a subject, you know, of journalistic scoops. So it took me quite a while to get a sort of a trust from the people, because I need to have this trust, because I also photograph. You know, I did a lot of long series of portraits. And this is, you know, this is the first phase. So it's quite, and it's maybe it's a long phase, because, you know, it takes some time. In Dose Anatomy was maybe 2 years. And at the same time, when I start this kind of phase of discovering the field, I also start second phase of collecting materials, which is, you know, quite a main part of all the work. And I start to collect materials that I usually find really actually literally on the street, or they're given to me by the, you know, in this case, by the stall keepers, like the people working in the market. And then all these materials actually is moved inside my studio, where I start to, in a way, to work with this material. I start to transform the material, and I start to, or the more sculptural work in the studio environment. And here also this, you know, the visual material that I produced in the field goes, you know, it starts also to get edited together with my sculptural work. And here is where I start to this kind of third phase where I start to edit all this kind of material together and trying to build a book or an exhibition. I mean, that's the structure of the work. But, you know, it's a kind of, I work with fragments, you know, it's, to me, the research in the field is trying to get as many fragments of this space, reality that I investigate and discover, and then, you know, everything is recomposed in a, of course, also following like quite a poetic vision. You know, here there is no, I'm not a photojournalist, I'm not a reporter, so everything is get through my personal lens and my, yeah, in a way it's a poetic vision, but still, you know, is really connected to the daily life of the, in this case, of the market.
And what echoes also the market mechanics is the way you make circulate let's say the objects or the products. And for instance, for Money Must Be Made, you did kind of import some of these products to your London studio, right? Yeah.
So there is always, of course, in Dawson it was easier logistically because everything was happening in front of the studio. So, you know, it was really a continuous work. But of course, the Money Must Be Made, you know, I was working in Lagos, and I had to move a lot of the material from Lagos to my studio in London. But this is something that I really, you know, it's a way, because I'm really interested in the movement, you know, of people, of goods, and all the different dynamics behind this process. So I think then at the end it becomes part of the process as well, because then all these materials that you know, they've been transported to my studio, actually personally transported in this case, because I really made physically like 5 bags of 60 kilos of all kind of materials. And actually I don't know how I managed to enter in London, but so in the studio, all these different materials then, you know, get a new life, and they're then mixed with the materials that are already in my studio. And this here is when I really, how these different inner meanings that each object and material have, they start to come out, and especially they come out when I start to mix all these different materials, and maybe, you know, less meanings and things that maybe I didn't get in the, you know, in the sort of in the field, because sometimes, you know, the field is more like a chaotic, and the rhythm is faster. But I mean, you know, in the stillness of the studio, I really managed to have a more how do you say, like a more reflective approach to all the different materials that I replace. But I think that's, you know, this is really a crucial part when I start to play and to connect these different materials together, and where the really is the more I mean, it's a really crucial part of all the process.
And also another aspect is, for instance, when you did the Dalston Anatomy, so the first project that you made in 2014-15, right? You also like did the movement back to the market, and can you speak about that, the kind of installation that you made in the market to show to the market people the pictures that you had produced and the way they interact with them?
Yeah, and of course, as soon as I finished, I think it was 2014, and I didn't want to. I wanted to find a way to bring back all this kind of work I've done to its source, because I think there's sometimes especially in the art field, is this kind of lack of connection in this case with the community, because I spent a long time, I think 3 years of my life working with community, with the material, and I was really wanted to find a way to also to communicate my work, to share the result of my research, of my work that are, you know, happening in the studio, to the street and to the community. So I, with the collaboration of a local gallery, we got a sponsorship from the Art Council, and I transform what is like a stall, which is, you know, the stall used by the people from Ridley Road to sell their goods. It was transformed and into a sort of a portable exhibition. So I selected a series of images and I print them in a smaller format. And so I for 1 month, you know, I lived the market life daily, you know, starting at 6 a.m. with my stall until the end of the day. And you know, of course, the result was incredible, because at the beginning they thought I was, I mean, they didn't understand what I was doing there, because they couldn't understand what kind of product I was selling, especially when they discovered I was not even selling anything. It was, I thought, but then, you know, Dayline, that's exactly what I wanted, because then I started to, it was a work of communicating and trying now to explain what, you know, my temporary role there, and to show what was the result, because of course, you know, after 3 years working there, a lot of people, they knew me. It was interesting how, you know, the interaction and the different responses I got from the community, because, you know, from, you know, most of the people there are like people that are not interested in art, or they even don't have the time to be interested in art. So I think that the connection there was exactly through the subjects of the images, so through the materials, the products that they sell every day. And, you know, then I remember this, this mental, I know, I never thought that actually you can make a sculpture out of a yam. So, and exactly, I think that's when the art of the role of art starts to me to have a sense, to create these kind of bridges between, you know, different groups of people, different communities, and so was, I mean, it was a really interesting moment. And of course, you know, I got also some negative feedback. There were also people, you know, that they didn't accept my my role there. You know, was I think that's exactly, you know, the dynamic of a free space, or the, you know, of the street in this case. Okay. And yeah, but, you know, another thing that I do apart from the stall was also to, you know, was I printed a series of posters, and so I, you know, I used them just to hang them along all the street of the market, which is an easiest, you know, it's quite an easy way to bring back all these images, and then to see also how they are perceived by the people. But was, you know, I think that it was mainly like a positive feedback, because at the end, you know, you're really, and that's why also I think that the images, they're quite, I mean, they're, to me, the aesthetic, the form of each image is quite important. I try to use this kind of aesthetic language to exactly to create this bridge, and this, which is a kind of dialogue with people we are now maybe connected to art, and that was the idea of all the performance that lasted for 1 month.
Great. Perhaps we could leave the, if people have questions, I don't know, Raphael, do you see questions?
No, not so far, but I encourage people, if they have questions, please do write them in the chat and I will pass them on. I had one question actually, Lorenzo. I can't show it on the screen, but you have in the Money Must Be Made a few pieces which are textiles pieces, like fabrics.
I can show them, I think. Hold on. If I go to his website. Hold on. Oh, just a second.
With people, with the writings on it. So we have one in the show.
Yeah, there was another tentative and way to find a contact with, in this case, with the subject, with the people I photograph, interview in the market. And because, of course, here there was a more logistical problem, because first, yeah, here the Balogun market is, you know, as you've seen in the image, is a really, I mean, the crowd is so intense, and so it's really difficult to, you know, it was quite impossible to do something similar that I did Dalston. So I got this idea to print a series of books with all the, like with a sort of a first presentation of the work, and I started to show it like to the people I was meeting, to the people I was working and I was photographing, and to have here again like a feedback, and the feedback was happening in the time of the interview. And so then that's why I decided then to use these kind of fragments of interviews to create like another series of artworks that then became part of the book. And I work with a calligrapher from the market who, you know, exactly drew all these phrases, fragments of discourses on the mostly Nigerian fabrics, and then I rephotograph it. And of course, you know, as you've seen, you know, Oibo, how far it means white men, where are you going? Because of course, as soon as I was walking into the market, we're all screaming Oibo, Oibo, in a really ironic way. It was so it was in a way to bring also the voices of the market in the book, and that's why I always like to try to work with text. And here what is missing that I wanted to use was also the audio, because it's really interesting, all these different, the people you see here in the pictures of the portraits that are, you know, using their body as a shop, because they're, you know, maybe they're the people, you know, with just arrived maybe in Lagos. They're immigrants from the north who really find in the market a first solution to the, you know, live and to their life. Also, they found a job quite easily. But it's really interesting how they invent, you know, different strategies to, you know, to connect to people and to sell the goods. And for example, one of the strategies is to use and create a sound, a noise, which is really recognizable by the people in the market. So there is someone who is, and it's incredible. I want to do like also to record and do a series of recordings to use that in the exhibition, and but it never happened. But it's, you know, that was the idea also of the text in the book.
So Lorenzo, tell us why the title "Money Must Be Made." Is there a story behind it?
Yeah, the story is that you know, again, I was walking one morning in the market and I saw this guy wearing a T-shirt with this tag like "Money Must Be Made," and I was so curious because I love the T-shirt. And I stopped him and I said, "Ma, tell me more about your T-shirt. I mean, it's beautiful." I say, "Yeah, this is the Lagos motto." And at the beginning was, you know, it can appear as a really strong, it's a strong sentence, but it really gives, and you have this kind of two really strong verbs like, you know, must and made, and but it really gives you the idea. I mean, from what I learned in, you know, in living the life of Balogun, also of Lagos, in this kind of physical approach of making in this wealth, and it's really, and it applies a lot of creativity, applies a lot of new strategies that are invented every day, but to really physically make, in this case, money. But money is not the point, but I really I thought it was really perfect to name the entire project.
Okay, thank you.